It's Christmas time, and I don't know when you start playing Christmas music. I love to start playing Christmas music early, and there's so many great songs. And there's a song, I know you know this song. It's not in the top three. You know, it's not like Wham! Last Christmas, which I think unapologetically is a great Christmas song. Most people disagree with me on that. It just makes me happy. This is one of those Christmas songs that when you hear it, you've just always known the song. But I've got to tell you about the guy who wrote the song. Noel Regney was born 1922 in a little town outside of Germany, actually a French town. He grows up French. But then World War II happens, and this little town becomes German, and then it goes back to French, and it goes back to German. And at 20 years old, a lot of young men were conscripted into the Nazi army, basically. He becomes a Nazi. He doesn't want to, but he has to wear the uniform. He has to serve. And in that time, wearing the uniform a number of times, he pretty much commits treason. At one point, he literally walks his unit straight into an ambush because if he hadn't have done that, his unit was on the way to kill French citizens. So he tells the French resistance all the plans of the Nazis, and they walk right into a trap, all because of Noel Regney. Well, he finally gets to a point where he's sick of it. He's like, I'm going to escape. And he runs from the German army. And in his escape, he gets shot in the leg. He literally goes on to serve the rest of World War II in the French resistance. At the close of World War II, young man, he's like, you know what? I want to live a different life. I want to experience something very different. He finds himself in New York, living in New York, and he's in the music business. He's pretty successful. He lives kind of like downtown Manhattan, and he's writing jingles. He marries an American, and the two of them together, they write jingles for Chicken of the Sea. They write a jingle, some of the earliest jingles for Kentucky Fried Chicken they write. I mean, you know, he's making a commercial success. But he's walking one night, October of 1962. That should ring a bell. October of 1962 was a tense time. Matter of fact, it's known as a crisis. He was out on the streets of Manhattan at night, and he sees two moms walking, and they're pushing strollers. They're pushing little babies in baby carriages. And the words to this Christmas song, he says they just come to him all at once. You probably know some of these. Well, let me read some of these words to you. Said the night wind to the little lamb, do you see what I see? Way up in the sky, little lamb, do you see what I see? A star, it's a star dancing in the night with a tail as big as a kite. That's right. In October of 1962, Noel Regney writes the famous song, Do You See What I See? Do you hear what I hear? Is another verse. And really, this song is a quiet, peaceful protest song to atomic bombs. You see, that night when he was walking the streets of Manhattan and he saw these two moms pushing two little babies, it was right in the middle of the Cuban Missile Crisis. The whole country was afraid of a nuclear attack, a bomb going off. And even that line, a tail as big as a kite and a star dancing in the sky, was a veiled reference to an explosion in the sky. Regney had seen throughout his life war. And he asks a question that the whole Bible asks. Matter of fact, I want to read to you where this question is really one of the places it's posed. I would say if you look at 2 Corinthians and you look at chapter 4, there's a verse here where Paul writes about everything that is unseen. This is the unseen chapter. He says this, we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but we fix our eyes on what is unseen. Since what is seen, everything that you can see, that is temporary. What is unseen is eternal. All of the stuff that you can see, it's temporary. All of the panic, all of the strife, all of the worry, all of the problems that we currently have. And Regney writes this song and he points us to the question that God asks in the Bible. Blows my mind. God asks in the book of Genesis, and he asks in the book of Revelation. And every book between Genesis and Revelation, God asked a very simple question. This is not a side subject in the Bible. Like, this is the central narrative tension of the whole Bible. God asked this question over 100 times. Do you see what I see? This is why I love this song. This is why I love this question. This song is asking the question of the whole Bible. Do you see what God sees? And God looks at us in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, and he says this: don't look at everything that is temporary, because God says, I see more than that. Matter of fact, God doesn't just see the surface. God sees the story behind the surface. God doesn't just see the moment that you're in. God sees eternity. But here's the biggest deal. We see a simple manger. What God sees is the cross and resurrection and relationship with you restored again. Anytime that God says something 100 times in the Bible, like he's got my attention. That's a lot of times for God to say the same thing over and over again. He might say it a little bit differently, but the idea is the same. God is saying, are you seeing this? Do you see what's happening? Do you see what I'm doing? Do you see what's going on? And then Paul says, hey, don't look at the temporary. Look at all of the unseen stuff. Well, why are some things unseen? My wife and I will pray with some people. We prayed with some people this week and said, God, please do this. God, please help us here. And God did a thing, and we had to look at one another and say, well, why'd God do that? And I told Jen, I said, I don't know. I don't always see what God sees, but he's always asking me, hey, do you see what I see? And then Paul says, look at the eternal. Well, why do some people not see it? It's not because they're dumb, right? It's not because they're distracted. It's not because it's too complicated. There's actually a verse. It says in 2 Corinthians verse 4 of chapter 4, the God of this age has blinded the mind of unbelievers so they cannot see the light of the gospel that displays the glory of Christ, who is the image of God. Don't think right now, well, God blinds people. No, the God of this age is lowercase g. The God of this age is Satan. He has blinded the minds of unbelievers so that they don't see how beautiful Jesus is. That's why people don't see it. And that's why Jesus shows up over and over again in the Bible. He's like, do you see it? Do you see it? Do you see it? I'm standing in a very special spot. This spot over the next 48 hours, over this weekend that our church is having here, this is Christmas season, we could have thousands of people. There's going to be a cute little petting zoo right here for kids to experience all kinds of God's creatures and animals. And there's a little play at the inn, and this cute puppet sticks his head out and tells all the kids, there's no room at the inn, you know, and there's a little production for kids at the end. And then the kids leave that experience and they come to this very quintessential manger scene. One of my favorite places to be is watching parents with their children, young children, that are kind of like, they're just getting old enough to understand the sacrifice of Jesus, or that God would send his son. And I'm going to be standing out here, and parents are going to be bringing their kids, and we've got, actors and actresses and a baby, like who's had a baby in the church? We get the baby Jesus, and, Mary's there, and Joseph, one of my friends is playing Joseph with their new baby. And I'm going to be kind of like over in the corner by the trees, and I'm going to be watching parents, maybe parents that don't bring their kids to church all the time, or they grew up in faith and they've walked away, but they know who God is and they know the real meaning of Christmas. We've all seen Charlie Brown's show, and they're going to be explaining to like their 6-year-old. Well, see, God sent his son to be born in a manger. And I can just see a kid's like, we don't have mangers today. It's like, well, I'm going to the manger, I'll be back. Like a barn with animals, and like kids know where they live. Like Jesus was born in that, like, well, not this one. A long time ago, far away, he was born in one. He was born with sheep and cows, and you can just see little kids get that inquisitive look on their face where they're like looking at you and like, what? This is crazy. I honestly think that a little boy, a little girl, the first time they hear that God put his son to be born in a lowly manger, that message, the first time they hear it, their immediate response is the most pure, perfect response, because they're just kind of like, okay, I believe you because, you know, you're my mom and dad. You're not supposed to lie to me. I believe you. But really? So, do you see what I see? This is the question that God asks in his Bible, all throughout it. Do you see what I see? When you see a manger, do you see what God sees? Do you see the light of the world? Salvation for everyone that would come to Jesus. Restoration between you and God. The hope for your marriage. The hope for your career. The hope for your street. The hope for your office. The hope for all kinds of things. Do you see it the way God sees it? This manger, the manger that Jesus was born in, it's not just the place where Jesus spent a couple of nights and came into the world. It is literally the moment that heaven bent towards earth. Do you see what God sees? Because this manger, or the manger that Jesus was born into, it was eternal, and it will be eternal. And God is saying this: don't set your mind on the things that are temporary, like all of the panic of the season, and the fear, and the to-do, and the busy, but set your mind on what is eternal. Here's what's eternal this season: Jesus and what he has for you. Do you see what God sees?